He treated me like I was a treasure. He just had everything that I was looking for in a man.
The perfect partner.
They seem to be super, super happy. It's kind of like you found your soulmate.
Did you know that one rushed decision can change your life forever? Just ask Christina McMahon. She thought she found true love, but instead she lost everything. Watch this clip and see what happened.
Ex, Christina McCrimmon, their short-lived relationship ended really badly. She went to the police but says she didn't get the help she wanted and that she has no money left to hire a lawyer. So she came to us with her story.
We always hear love conquers all. But what if I told you that sometimes love blinds you from the truth? It gets in the way of the truth. What if a simple background check could have saved her meaning Christina, from heartbreak and $300,000 in debt? Imagine. This is a story that you might have heard and you may hear often. And sometimes you wonder, how does these things happen? Who does that? But it happened, or it happens time and time again for a number of reasons, as you're going to see in this video, how one person in love, or thought she was, made some decisions that were life altering. And we're going to get into that in a few moments. But before this, if this is your first time watching this channel and you're wondering who I am, I'm Kingsley Grant, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach. And I help wives of entrepreneurial husbands better understand their husband, rekindle love, and deepen intimacy without losing their peace and their joy. That's what I tend to do in this video you're watching, and also my podcast. That is the angle in which I take, and I hope you will find that out. And so if you're the first time doing that, and if you have never subscribed to the channel, can I ask you to go ahead and do that? That'd be great. And if you want to listen to the whole thing and then subscribe, that would even be better, right? There is a scripture verse that I want to bring to your attention that I think will help to summarize to some degree what happened in this video. And that's in Proverbs 27, verse 12. Solomon wrote, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." Now, the word prudent is simply talking about the wise, right? Those who act in wisdom. They see danger. They just don't just glibly go into some situations. They take the time to look. So the word see danger is an active form of actively seeing, looking for, making sure there's no danger in play. That's what the wise does. And when if they see danger, they take refuge. But the simple keep going and they pay the penalty. And you'll find and see in this video as you're watching this or listening, you're going to see how Christina paid the penalty. She, I would say, acted in a simple manner rather than in a wise manner. And it really cost her dearly. See, love is powerful, but wisdom, it protects you from disaster. Would you agree with that? I mean, it's very evident, and actually will be very evident in this video, that as you watch and listen, that Christina, she did not apply herself to wisdom. She did not behave in a wise manner. And again, as I mentioned, it cost her dearly. So what's the real problem here? What's the problem in these situations? Rushing into marriage without due diligence and being prudent can be something that many people live to regret. Christina's story isn't just tragic. It's a warning. It's a warning. Here it is. She met a man who seemed perfect, right? Isn't that the story? I mean, he is perfect. She is perfect. They're just, you can't tell a person who have met this individual that they have been wanting so badly to have someone in their lives that they're not perfect. That's all they see. They overlook. They're in through the rose-colored glasses is what they're looking through. Because he was charming. He said all the right things and even had a heartbreaking story about battling cancer. Imagine that. Imagine that. 2 months later, 2 months later, after meeting this man and being swooped up into his arms, so to speak, boom, she married him. Yes, she did. Imagine that. I cannot even begin to think what you thought when you heard me just say she married him after 2 months. Who does that? Well, surely not the prudent or the wise person, right? It's those who are simple, as Solomon says. So let's watch this clip about Christina explaining how quickly the marriage happened and her version of why it happened. Let's take a look together.
Sir.
We all sat here at Christmas time. We were all crying. I was a mess at Christmas because I thought he was dying.
Sharon confirmed the diagnosis to McCrimmon's father in a Facebook message, writing, "I have stage 4 brain cancer," and saying he was going to slowly die.
She was in tears over the whole thing. And she felt sorry for him. And she wanted to be there for him. You know how it is. She's totally in love with this guy. Want to be there for him right till he dies. That kind of thing.
The pair got married shortly after, on January 21st, 2024.
Well, what you've seen leads me to say, well, Christina, come on. Did you check his past? Did you do any due diligence? Did you do any homework? I mean, in the age and time we're living in, where almost everything you need to know about someone can be accessed online, but she never checked his past. I mean, if she had, she would have found multiple fraud charges, lawsuits, and financial scams in public records about this man. But by the time she realized he had access to everything she owned, imagine that. I mean, my heart goes out to her in the sense of what she went through and she is going through. And I don't want to sit in the place of judgment and sit by and just say, hey, you know what, Christina, where was your head, right? I'm not going to be that person. And I hope you're not either, because we want to empathize, even though she did not act with wisdom, but as an unwise or a simple person did. And her situation, where she was in life, as you will see, led to what she did. But she gave him access to everything she owned after 2 months of getting to know this man, or she thought she know this man. You know, Proverbs, again, I love Solomon and how he addresses certain things, especially in relationship, because he should know, right? He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. This guy, of all persons, should know about relationship, don't you think? He said in Proverbs 15, verse 22, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. With many advisors, they succeed. I wonder who Christina spoke to, if anyone. I wonder even if she was told some things and warned and cautioned, if she would just push that aside. She's so much in love, head over heels with this man, that would she listen? I don't know if she heard from her family members or friends and warning her that it's too quick. I don't know. But apparently, whatever happened, the scripture says here in Proverbs, with many advisors, not just one, many advisors, plans succeed. So rushing into marriage without guidance is like driving with your eyes closed. And how does that work out? Right? So the hard lesson learned is what the devastating aftermath, what happened here. And we're going to see here in this clip, where in a few moments, where Christina explained the moment she realized she was scammed. I mean, it took her a little while, but she did finally did, but it was a little bit too late. So here's what happened next. He convinced her, right? His name is Francis. He convinced her to refinance her home. He drained her savings, and then he vanished. Christina was left not just with heartbreak, but with a mountain of debt. This poor lady. My heart goes out to her. I mean, who does that and take advantage of someone like this? Well, Francis did. This man was a scam artist, a con artist, and he found someone who he could take advantage of. So here is Christina explaining the moment she realized she was scammed. Let's watch this together.
But I felt that I finally met somebody who is my soulmate. He just had everything that I was looking for in a man.
On December 19th, they got engaged. Just 10 days later, her world came crashing down.
Now, this is the harsh reality of rushing into marriage when emotions take over. Wisdom takes a back seat. And when that happens, the consequences are real. They're real, right? She called him, imagine she called him after 2 months. After 2 months, she called him her soulmate. Soulmate after weeks of this relationship. That's not love, is it? That's infatuation. We convince ourselves that this is it because we want to be true. We want it to be so true. And we are blinded by our emotions. But real love doesn't need to sprint. It grows with time and trust, right? I love this Proverbs that, I kind of grew up hearing this where I would hear, I mean, the first part of this more often than not, because it could be applied in every context, as you'll see how it applies in this context. But you may have heard this yourself. And let me know if you, in the comments below, if you've ever heard this. It says, haste makes what? Waste. Have you heard that? I mean, did you grow up hearing that, or have you heard that? What's your thoughts on that? I mean, I'd love to hear from you. Just drop your comment below and let's have a conversation. I'd love to hear if just put in the chat, in the comment. I've heard it. I've heard it. I'd also love to hear if that you've heard it yourself. But in this context, haste makes waste, but rushing into marriage makes misery, right? Haste makes waste, but rushing into marriage makes misery. Wow. Wow. And that's what happens here in Christina's case. I remember this, I knew a lady, I was involved in this church many, many, many years ago. And there was an older lady, she was about in her 50s. And she met with a pastor, one of the pastors at this church I was attending. And she wanted to get married, right? So she met with a pastor that talked about the relationship. She didn't want any premarital counseling because it was too long. She said her words to the pastor was, we're old enough. We have had our own children. We've been married before. We figured we know exactly what we want. And I think we know, we're at our age. We don't really need premarital counseling as we would have if we were much younger. So, with that said, we just want to get married. And I can tell you the pastor kind of cautioned them, especially her, cautioned them on this marriage. But no, 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 no. She wanted to get married. Come on, no, sorry, Bob. She got to get married, she said. So, okay. The pastor, of course, he cannot just force them and decide for them. So they got married. They got married. Can I tell you that less than a month after they got married, she was back to see the pastor. And thank God she did. She didn't just disappear, and hid herself and in shame or embarrassment. But she came back to the pastor and said, I should have listened. I should have listened. Because she said everything that she thought would never go wrong or happen had happened. And she wanted to divorce this man. And I don't know if she sought for an annulment or she got a divorce, but whatever she did, they were no longer together. But haste make waste, and rushing into marriage makes misery. And she wanted to get out of that. She wanted to get out of that, and she did. She did. You know, Ecclesiastes 5, verse 2 says, do not be hasty in word or impulsive in thought to bring up a matter. Do not be hasty in word or impulsive in thought to bring up a matter. I think Christina's impulsivity, right? And it's driven by her loneliness and her sense of being a something about romantic, being a helpless romantic or hopeless romantic, something like that. Well, that's what kind of what she said here. But here's the thing, according to Ecclesiastes, about being hasty in word and impulsive in your thought, the decisions today you make and I make shape our future reality, right? It shapes our future reality. And Christian found out the hard way. So the question becomes then, why do people ignore warnings? Why would you think people ignore warnings? I'm going to share something with you that I believe why they do that, but I would love to also hear your thoughts. If what I share, maybe you want to add something else to that, I would love to hear in the chat what's your thoughts about why do people ignore warnings like they receive, such like these. So here's what's crazy, right? People ignore the red flags. Why? Because emotions override logic, right? Christina believed she was the exception, like so many people do. That's the exception. It doesn't won't happen to me, or it happened to that other person, but not us. Like that couple I told you who met with that pastor, in her mind, oh, we're the exceptions. We're older, we've been married, we've raised our kids, so we're the exceptions at this point. 1 month later, Christina Christina thought she was the exception. She thought love would fix everything. But here's what a great football coach says. Hope is not a strategy. She hoped it would, but hope is not a strategy. So let's watch um, what we hear, what Christina and the experts who kind of chimed in on why people fall for these scams. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts as you listen and watch with me.
But the goal was we were going to get married in the summertime. But we sped things up because he had said that he had cancer. It was literally to make it legal so that we can take care of business for him and so that I could take care of him and move in with him.
But that never happened. A fight just 2 days after the marriage ended like this.
You too, you fat bitch. Hey.
So it sounds romantic, right? When you know, you know. Right? When you know, you know. But here's the truth. If you don't know the facts, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak. And as I mentioned before, it's not too hard to find the facts or find enough information about a person in the day that we're living in, right? I mean, would you agree with that statement? You know, I love what Ronald Reagan, the past president, one of the past presidents, is dead now, but Ronald Reagan says this: trust, but verify. Trust, but verify. I love that way of framing how we should approach and trusting someone. So, how do you avoid this mistake? Now, you may have already, as you're watching this, you're saying, man, I look back at some decisions I've made or the decision I made about marriage. And I find that sometimes I wonder, did I make a mistake? Or maybe I'm pondering that question. So how do we avoid that first? Let's talk about that first. How do you protect yourself? Well, here are 3 things you must do before saying, I do, right? When I do premarital counseling, I do that for this very reason of trying to help couples that before they say, I do, it's important to know as much as you can, work through as much as you can, because it's better to even call off a marriage and not be married, because no marriage is better than a bad marriage, right? But so here are 3 things I believe you must do before saying, I do. First, seek God first. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then Jesus says, and everything else will be added to you. Seek God. I don't know Christina's story, if she's a Christian, someone who believes in God. But I want to say, if she didn't, I would think it'd be a good idea to talk to God first. I told someone in one of my sessions that I was working with someone, I said, there's something that I think is so important here. Talk to God about someone, about people, before you talk to people about God, right? So I think for Christina and for you, if you're not being married and you're listening to this, or you know someone who's about to get married, my first encouragement is to seek God first. Pray, ask God for wisdom, because God says if you ask for wisdom, He will give it to you. Liberally, He'll give it to you without reproach, means God is not going to say, I told you so. So He will give it to you. Seek God first. Secondly, get wise counsel. If you have not gotten that so far from this video, you need to go back and rewatch it, right? Get wise counsel, trusted mentors, married couples, financial advisors, spiritual leaders. I mean, make sure you look for wise counsel. Wise people who have something to offer and will tell you the truth. You know, when I do premarital counseling or coaching to people, I'm coaching, I tell them, hey, listen, man, listen, couple, listen, person. I say, I want you to know I'm on the side of your relationship. So I might say something that might offend you. But please understand, I'm coming from a place to help you. And I understand it may be that way, but trust me, it's not personal. I want them to succeed. I've been married as of this recording for almost 4 decades, 39 years. And this year in 2025, it's 40 years, 40 years. I know I don't look it, right? But 40 years of marriage. I've been doing my work with couples for almost 2 decades, and of coaching and counseling. So I think I have something that I can use to say, hey, I've learned some things along the way. So when I'm counseling or coaching people, I'm bringing all that into play. And so you want to find somebody who have a track record. Wise counsel. Number three, do your due diligence. And I think I've kind of emphasized that's enough. Background checks, family, asking friends and family and foes and whatever you need to do, right? Look for things, ask questions, talk about finances, which is what you do in premarital counseling, and relationships and all those things. That takes time. I tell people many times, if you're going to get married next week or next month, I'm not going to be the guy to help you, because I'm not going to come and compete with your urgency and you want to get married and compete with that and try to help you to work through some things that are going to take some time to undo. And here's this notion, oh, we'll get married and then we'll work on these things together. No, it's not going to happen that way. I've seen too many people have done that. It doesn't work. But once you get married, once you get the prize, why are you now going to put in the energy and the time? You already got what you want, but you want to do diligence ahead before you get married. Now, as I mentioned before, you might have been married and you're thinking that you're made a mistake. Maybe you have kind of accepted and you're working through, which I commend you. But as you're watching this, you might be thinking, but Kingsley, I'm already here. I already have made a decision to get married, and I didn't listen. Can I just say to you, do not beat yourself up, because God is not done with your story. There's always a way forward, because with God, nothing is impossible. And God can make a way out of no way. And God may use your relationship, your marriage, for your own refinement and make you more like Jesus. So God's not done with your story. There's always a way forward, but it starts with wisdom. It doesn't start with regretting. Don't live in regret, because you're only adding more regret on the stack that's already in place. Live moving forward. Let God help you to navigate this season of your life. What Jesus said in John 10, verse 10, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. God wants you to have a full life. And Jesus says He's going to give that to you if you so seek Him. And I hope you will do that. So, what do you think as you've listened to this? Is rushing into marriage always dangerous, or can love truly defy the odds? What do you think? I mean, drop a comment below and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, if there's anything that you heard today that resonated or made sense, remember what I do also, I teach. I'm teaching a boot camp called Happier Marriage by Design. And if you would like to know more about that, or be in line to be given advance notice of when the next boot camp is, may I ask you to go buildyourhappiermarriage.com/waitlist and just sign up there and get a free PDF that I have for you as a free gift just for signing up. And when I do the next boot camp, you can be a part of that. But also, let me just show you something here. I think it's very important. I mean, which I had mentioned earlier. My newest book, The Joyful Wife, is available on Amazon, so you can get a copy of this. And in that, I cover some things also about relationship. But in the boot camp, I talk a lot about things that we have kind of covered here to some degree, touched on, and I talk about the intimacy bridge and so on. So you may want to go to buildyourhappiermarriage.com/slash waitlist and get on the wait list, right? And so if you're serious about making your marriage decisions and knowing a little bit more, I want to encourage you to be on that. And again, you heard me mention I have a podcast. So it's Build Your Happier Marriage podcast. And you can get that. Also, the link will be in the description below, as well as all the links you saw here. And again, don't forget the book, The Joyful Wife, my newest book that helps. And it says is 7 connection skills to better understand your husband, rekindle love, and deepen intimacy. Get your copy today on Amazon. I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch. If you have not yet hit that subscribe button, go ahead and hit that right now. Please go ahead and hit that right now. Yes, right now. And hit that like button if you like what you heard. And I want to say thank you for taking the time to watch and to listen. May God bless you. And may you experience his peace, his love, his joy in your life and in your relationship and in your decisions. God bless you. And make sure you watch this video here, right here, and share this and this one here with at least one other person. God bless you. And I'll see you on the next video. God bless. Peace out.